Hi, welcome to my translation strategies project. My name is Ainsley Davis, and I decided to research Hamilton and particularly the song The Schuyler Sisters musical. So this musical was written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he wrote this story, highlighting a lot of the participation of immigrants in the American Revolutionary War and kind of the founding of America and the United States. So this song highlights the three ladies, Peggy, Angelica, and Eliza. And these three sisters end up singing a song between the three of them for Aaron Burr and the chorus. And the song is very conversational. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of terms used that can pose a lot of translation problems. So, some of the issues that I found and discovered while investigating this Spanish translation was particularly with translating rhythm and rhyme, which can be very difficult just from any song with any song that is being translated. But for this one in particular, like the whole story is told through rap or through song. And so that makes it certainly very difficult considering that there are references to other songs throughout the play. And so that's something that also needs to be paid attention to while this while translating to make sure that there is consistency throughout and to make sure that things match up. So these, I put here just the first part of the Schuyler Sisters. So there's the translation, or there's the English, the original English, and it's spoken very rhythmically, very fast as well. And then to the right, I put the subtitles that are used on Disney Plus. Genius, I took these from Genius. Genius.com does have a translation for Spanish. Or they have this version in Spanish, but it's not the same as what's used on Disney Plus. So I covered that up. But these are the subtitles that are used, and you can tell that maybe it's a little bit shorter so that it can be a little bit easier for viewers to read it quickly as it's going across the screen. Because, like I said, the part in English is spoken very quickly. So that also poses a little bit of an issue for translators as they're taking into account that this is going to be read fairly quickly and it needs to keep up with the beat, but still translate the same and communicate the same message that's being said in English, more or less. Another issue that I found particularly interesting as I encountered some of the references to American history throughout the play. Obviously, this is a story about the American Revolution and about the founding of America. So, this is a story that is based on American history that is mostly going to be familiar to people who grew up in America and people who grew up learning about American history. So it might be a little bit difficult for a Spanish audience who did not grow up learning about all that. Some of the issues that are encountered there is that pretty much all the characters have are historical figures from North America and from the US. And it's during a time about the Revolutionary War, and it's very dependent on it's a little bit dependent on knowing on the audience's context and knowing about American history. Finally, another reference or another issue that I thought was interesting was in the song, Angelica in particular, she has a line where she says part of the Constitution, where she says that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, which is a quote directly from the Constitution. So I thought that was really interesting, felt it was something that was interesting to discover how they translated that, considering that the original document of the U.S. Constitution is written in English, and so I was interested to see if they would change what was taken or use like a Spanish equivalent of a constitution or something like that in order to translate this. So some of the solutions, particularly for the rhythm and rhyme, I found that it was important that when translators decide on the goal of their translation for the subtitle. So with a subtitle, you want it to be a little bit shorter, obviously. Translators could reach out to Spanish songwriters. They could study other Spanish theatrical works. And there are also several covers and translations of Hamilton that people have just made on their own. They've translated the songs, and so that could be another really good resource for translators as they're looking into how to translate it for the audience on Disney Plus. For the references that are made to American history, there is the option of changing the names to more familiar historical figures from Latin American history. However, due to the fact that, in my own personal opinion, due to the fact that the whole story is a story of the American Revolution, I think it would be very difficult to find something that is perfectly paralleled to the American Revolution that would be able to cover every single historical reference made throughout the play. Personally, I think that would kind of take away from the story because it is a story of the American Revolution, and to have to change all of the references, I feel like it would just make it a completely different play about a completely different event. So there is the option of referencing Latin American historical events, or even changing some of the references, the minuscule references, to more familiar things that are more familiar to a Latin audience. But there's that could get derailed with a very big job to change everything in that way. There is an example that I found of a similar thing happening in the movie Parasite. One of the characters references Seoul University, but in the English subtitles, he actually says, in the English subtitles, they changed it to Oxford University, so that it would be more appealing or make more sense to a Western audience. And this is seen various times throughout media that's translated like this. But that was just one particular example that I found of an option for how translators could have gone about doing this. In reference to the historical documents, there is a website called the National Archives that has the Constitution not only in English, kind of typed out in a digitized form, but it also has an official translation of it in Spanish. And there are a couple other websites that do contain that. And the Disney Plus subtitles it appears that they did use some of these official translations, because most of the official translations that I found had the exact same the same wording, and there wasn't a ton of variation between the official translations, thankfully. And so it looks like the Disney Plus subtitlers did end up using an official translation of the US Constitution in order to translate the part that Angelica references while she's singing. So some of the discussion questions that I would love to hear thoughts on, and love to know what your opinions are about, are, first of all, do you think that it would have been better if the translators had changed the historical references to be of Latin American history instead? I know I kind of touched on it already and shared my opinion about it, but I would love to know what other people think. And for the second one, I'd love to know about, would you rather the translators had prioritized matching the rhythm over matching the meaning of each line for translations of songs in general, or for the Schuyler Sisters in particular? And do you know of any works that have been translated that you feel personally were translated super well? So I'd love to know of any of your comments, and that was my presentation. Thanks so much. Bye.